Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Talking Timepieces, where we talk about watch collecting and horology. Um, Today, I wanted to talk about other watch channels because that was one of the suggestions that we had gotten from the audience over the last week. Someone sent a note saying, "Wouldn't it be nice if we talked a little bit about some of the other watch YouTubers?" And, I thought, why not? Because I've always maintained that I'm not really in competition. Well, especially not me, because do this pretty much as a hobby. I'm not worried about profit or any of that other. And there are people who are very, very focused on that, and I can understand and respect that. Um, but even if I were doing this for profit, I wouldn't consider the other watch channels direct competition because number one, we're not fighting for the same time slot. It's not like it's an either or situation the way it used to be in the old timey TV days. When if you missed that show, you just missed that show. And so it was really a race between shows to see who people would watch. Whereas nowadays, today, it's not a case of watching one versus another based upon time slots and preference. It's based upon direct preference. If you want to watch that person's channel, you can watch that person's channel at any time, any place, because it's all archived online. It's streaming content. So that's why I don't consider any of the other channels my direct competition because they're not trying to push me out of my slot, as it were. They may be trying to get, as many of the eyeballs as humanly possible to get their ratings up and their numbers good and all that other stuff with the YouTube algorithms, but, I don't directly consider them to be trying to block me from you seeing me or that they prefer that, well, they may prefer that you watch them instead of me, but my philosophy is you should watch several. You should watch a few. You should enjoy the rich amount of content that is available out there about watches because there are some channels that do nothing but, chase the Rolex market and try to monetize watch snobbery. You know what I mean? And if people want to watch those kinds of shows, then let them watch those kinds of shows. But I like also the people who try to make us enjoy or think about, why we enjoy watches or how we enjoy watches, and talk about the ways we enjoy watches, so that we can really gain from this hobby that we have. I mean, I've always maintained that watches are the perfect hobby because, well, there are others of its nature, but no politics, no religion, no race. My joke is then no sex, haha. But watches are, relatively purist. They may be attached to historic things, but they're not political even in that context. Like, well, wristwatch check. Wearing my Snoopy, silver Snoopy on a rubber strap. I'm really liking it on this rubber strap. I still want to go up to Dusseldorf and see that my friend Sartipi and get a custom exotic hide strap. But for day to day wear, I prefer this over the sailcloth that it came on, frankly, because the sailcloth strap came across to me as a little, thin for a watch of this heft. I think it should have a more robust strap like this rubber strap. And when I do the video on this watch, I'll talk about that as well. And I'm going to try to see if a standard Speedmaster metal bracelet will fit it. It should, because it's the same case and lug width, but maybe the pinholes are off by a microscopic amount, and then it won't work. You never know. But I literally filled a page with watch channels, and I didn't even touch probably a third of the people who were out there. There were channels that I know of that I didn't have space. I figured I'd get started, and maybe some of you would tell us your favorite watch channels. But in no particular order. Well, I'll start with the people who I know and have dealt with, like Roman Scharf. I really like him. He's a nice guy. He understands the industry, and I bumped into him at Geneva Watch Days last year. And I occasionally text with TGV over at Urban Gentry, and I've also had conversations with Peter Katza, and he's a nice guy too. He's I like the photographers because like Adrian Barker, he's a photographer as well, and I like the way they look at watches. And Peter Kotz is a photographer as well. And I like the way they look at watches and the way they talk about watches. And when you think about a photographer, they're always trying to get that right shot, that right angle, that right image, as it were. And so when you're talking about something that has the level of detail and potential opportunities to highlight, um, like a watch, you can really have a lot of fun with it as a photographer. And so I have a lot of respect for those kinds of shows as well because they're not just talking about the watch; they're also really trying to emphasize the art in the watch, the look, the beauty of the watch, in their endeavor, as it were. Now, then there are the people who I really like Teddy Baltazar. I really have a lot of respect for that man. He started just as a watch blogger, and he started doing watch business, and now he's a watch reseller. He's AD for a lot of brands online, and he's got brick and mortar boutique in Cleveland, if I'm not mistaken. And, I can you can only respect that kind of because he could have had that drive in any business. Obviously, if he's going to be a successful business person, he's going to be successful in whatever. If you put that kind of effort into it, you're going to be at least reasonably successful. And when you think about that, he's being reasonably, if not very successful in the watch space, which is undergoing all kinds of interesting industry shifts and market shifts. The fact that he can do as well as he's been doing, just speaks to his character. He's a sharp guy. I respect him a lot. Watch Gecko also does. They have a nice channel, and they also do monetary stuff on the side. But then so does Adrian with Bark and Jack. And there are a few others as well, Watchfinder and the like. You're going to find people who are going to um, publicize and serialize their business as content if they can, and if they can make something that is entertaining and worthwhile for us to listen to, why not? you know um if they are able to entertain and inform us, okay, let them make money on the side selling watches or straps or cases or whatever it is that they do is their business. uh, I have no problem with that kind of a situation as long as their content isn't pandering or marketing, as long as their content is truly, descriptive of their passions. Like, for example, Federico talks watches. I was going to mention him anyway. He's on the list. Federico, he often talks about in detail about watches that he has for sale. Um, but he number 1, describes them well, and number 2, that's not the point of his show. He starts with what he has on sale, but then he goes and talks about whatever the various topics are or the things that he wants to address. So, I mean, it is tied to his business, but he is informative and entertaining in his show at the same time. So I have no problems with somebody being, in the watch business and doing watch content. The ones I find a little shallow, though, are, for example, the ones that are just chasing the Rolex market or trying to make watch snobs feel good about themselves or something. Like, let's talk about, which brand is better than the other brand, and that's kind of a very difficult thing to do, right? Because what are you basing it on? Legacy, quality, finish? You could find uh, watches from mainstream, or the term I hate to say is entry level. You could find pieces from watch companies that are considered entry level and are of a fit and finish that rival anything at the higher ends of horology. Um, like one of the examples I like to use is the Breitling Navitimer GMT versus the Mont Blanc Nicholas Rusek. You know, If you go by branding, the Breitling is a more valuable piece because you're gonna get more resale out of that out of that out of that Navitimer than you're gonna get out of that Mont Blanc Nicholas Roussek. But the Nicholas Roussek's a vertical clutch, mono pusher, GMT chronograph, with an in-house as opposed to the Valjoux 7751 that's in the, Breitling, Navitimer GMT. So, you know, those kind of channels that try to armchair quarterback the marketplace, I recognize that people wanna, listen to things that, well, and they some of those channels can be very entertaining, but in my mind, they don't really have a lot of staying power. You once you talk about the Rolex market in the summer of '85 or whatever month or year you refer to, the market changes, so that content was useful in the moment that it was released, but it becomes, of course, less and less valid over time. Whereas, for example, a review of a classic watch will have 20, 30 years of legs on on YouTube because people who are interested in that Breitling Navitimer are going to look at that review years from now. Or, like, for example, that's why I like to talk about topics that are as timeless as I can conceive of, like why do you wear a watch? And let's talk about color, and let's talk about complications. Let's talk about exit pieces. Let's talk about grail pieces. I like to talk about concepts and shared passions within watch collecting and analyze why we do this, why we enjoy what we do. And I like those kinds of channels where people do talk about watch collecting in a more transcendent aspect. Let's talk about the watch. What is important about this watch? Don't just try to compare it to other watches or, talk about perceptions in the marketplace about how it is perceived as being. Tell us what it is. The more we can educate one another, the better off we all are as a community, right? And of course, got to mention Archie Luxury. I've actually been on some of his live streams, and he is a boisterous individual, and he's full of passion and fire. But I do respect his viewpoints on the industry and the marketplace, and on horology and watch collecting. And he's gotten recently a beautiful trio of Breguet pieces. He's on a Breguet bender right now. But there's nothing wrong with that. Breguet makes some fantastic pieces. Watch Chris. I like Watch Chris a lot as well. He's a really good channel. And don't forget, if you have a channel that you'd like to mention, go ahead and type it into the chat. Let's make sure I get all the messages. Oh yeah, for some reason I had the chat uh, hidden, not hidden, but it wasn't showing me the chat. So Nanad, all right, let's see, live chat. And now I'm having trouble. Reactions, timestamps. For some reason, I've been having trouble with this stupid page and the comments. Oh, this is not good. Because if I can't read your comments, I won't be able to do as much with it. But let's see what we can do. Okay, Evil Mad 666. Hey, how's it going? Yeah, it's not letting me see the stupid. I can't scroll for some stupid reason. I don't know why it's not letting me scroll. Yeah, for some reason I can't scroll through the messages. But let's just read the ones that I can see then. Oh, come on. This is a joke. Please be a joke. It's not it's really bother. That's one thing I really don't like about some of the things that are with if you just use the regular Browser. Goal, set a timer. I'm not going to worry about that. Hope I can see. I can't even get the stupid thing to scroll. Whatever. Rick B, entry level. I resemble that remark. Superfly micros. Pontiff. Yeah, yeah. Archie. Uh, Uncivil law. I'm rocking a Citizen Pro Master Tough Ray Myers right now. What are we all wearing? As I was saying, I was wearing my Silver Snoopy, really love it. Rick B, Squale, he's wearing a Squale. The Vince, Marshall Time is a great channel. Yeah, it is a good channel. Evil Mad 666, about effing time that was lovely till George ruined it with product placement of his own watches. Ouch. Um, Santa Claus, watch Chris is lots of fun. I think he's lots of fun too. I think he really knows what he's doing. He's a good person. Jonathan, happy Saturday. Why is this not letting me scroll through my comments? It's really bothering me. But actually, I was just thinking maybe I can look at it on my phone and see the comments. Someone just sent me a note that there's a performance in the park in my town. Unfortunately, I'm here with you all. And let's see if I can get on this, because then I can just read the comments from my live stream. From my phone, hopefully, because it's so weird that, like I said, sometimes it just acts up, you know? Santa Claus, watch Chris is lots of fun. I agree. I do like him. Archie, luxury. Come on. It really bugs me because I can't scroll through these stupid comments. I mean, I shouldn't say the comments aren't stupid. I can't scroll. The dumb thing is not allowing me to, which is really bothering me. But what can I do? I can only continue. I'll just continue to blather on, and let's see if I can go there, and then I can just read it from the comments. Okay, here we go. Let's scroll to the very top. The Vince, good afternoon. David H, enjoy your stream. Appreciate them. Thank you, David. The world is large enough for everyone. I agree completely. Dr. Bob's Nightmare. Hey, how's it going, my friend? Greeting all of you. Ooh, spicy topic. Who are we going to talk about first? Hello, all. Santa Claus. Let's see. Good evening, Evil Mad. I think I saw that. Nanad, I avoid watching channels that are sponsored by a watch brand. Let's see. Adrian, awesome. He combines brilliant photography with a review and selling straps does not influence his reviews. Yeah, I agree, Evil Mad. Let's see. Tanya, hey, how's it going, Tanya? Uncivil law. I have been on Watch Kick recently. I'm going to try to do my first watch build over the coming weekend. I'm excited. I wish you the best of luck, my friend. I really do. Have some fun with that, right? Take the curse off the washing machine. Big fan of Mark over at Long Island Watch. I like him too. He's a nice guy. Mostly reviews of pieces in the store, but interesting nonetheless. Well, at least it's something interesting. Evil Mad. That's what you get when you registered on YouTube in the early days. Now you're stuck with that nickname. G Medina, Tudor Submariner. Well, that's. I think they're going to bring that back. Actually, the Black Bay is almost a sub, right? The new black one. Miranda, hey, how's it going, Miranda? Good evening. I watch a few German channels, but I find this a good one. Well, thank you. Evil Mad, Miranda, the content is nice, but the voice lets me fall asleep all the time. Miranda, Evil Mad, it's over the top, but I like the channel. So, yeah, it's not letting me scroll, but I'll just keep an eye on it here on the phone. But let me go back to the list. Let's go through some of these other names, like Andrew Morgan. He used to be with Watchfinder, and he became quite well known as a watch commentator, and then he split off and started doing his own thing. I like Andrew Morgan. I think he's a nice guy. Um, Chisholm Hunter, he's another good person who's got some really nice content. I do like Jody over at Just One More Watch. I l- it, I like the fact that he is, out for the everyman, as it were. He's not reviewing pretentious watches. He's reviewing watches that everybody can afford, and he's genuinely passionate about it, and he's genuinely informative about it, and his show is really entertaining. I like Just One More Watch. I do. Let's see. Do I know Simon the Gezeitenpanther? No, I haven't heard about him. Aber ich werde zuhören. Nächstes Mal ich die Möglichkeit haben, schick mir einfach den Link. I speak German. I can understand the channel. Nico Leonard. Nico Leonard's also another good channel. Interesting guy. I mentioned Peter Katza, but he's worth mentioning twice. Bruce Williams. Bruce Williams is another nice guy. He's more like me, more the hobbyist who just likes to talk about his watches. He's, I think, in PR in his day job, but he's just someone who, he can afford to buy some nice watches, and he's translated his hobby into a viable watch channel, and now he's very well respected in the community. Bruce Williams is a good channel. I'd watch him. I mean, I do watch him. Let's see. Britt Pierce. She's one of there are only a couple. There aren't that many female watch bloggers out there. But Britt Pierce, she's one, and she's a good commentator, as it were. She does have some intelligent insight, and she knows what she's talking about when it comes to horology. You know, Top Tier Ticker. That's another good channel. Top Tier Ticker. They're also a little bit more mainstream, which is nice because you can't all be talking about Rolex and AP and Cartier and all of the others at the higher end. People got to do their Oruses and their other mainstream pieces, and enjoy the community and enjoy the stuff like Rado and the like. And let's see. Oh, look at some more comments. Chronoglide, Kali Slap. My hobbies are Santa Claus. My hobbies are not cheap, mainly pocket watches, but lots of fun. Evil Mad 666. Osen O'Malley. I like Osen O'Malley. He's also a nice guy, and he throws the whole lifestyle thing is here. I'm walking around and enjoying this scenery and thinking about watches, and I like Osen. He's a nice guy. I do. CEK Watch Chris. Hey Chris. I like Fratello. I'll see you Thursday, I think, right? I like Fratello as well as Watch Ragazzi, which you met in. Yes, I met in Dusseldorf. You're right. And I like Watch Ragazzi. The Vince, Jeff McMahon is a very interesting man and channel. Nanad, you've mentioned a couple of watch channels I didn't know exist. And almost certainly the audience is going to mention a couple of channels that I didn't know exist. That's the beautiful thing about having a community and communicating and all that cool stuff. I love it. Evil Mad, and we are sharing the cigar hobby with Osen. Well, at Dusseldorf, if I'm not mistaken, I forget if it wasn't at Geneva Watch Days, it was at Dusseldorf. Fortis had a cigar rolling stand, and they had a guy rolling cigars, and people were smoking cigars. It was really cool. It was really cool. Jeff McMahon is the best. Dr. Bob's My Nightmare is throwing there, also concurring. So let's see. Who have I not read off? The Mad Watch Collector. You got to talk about the Mad Watch Collector. Everybody loves the Mad. Who doesn't love the Mad Watch Collector? He's funny. He doesn't take it too seriously. He's got a really good attitude. I like the Mad Watch Collector a lot. He's fun. I mentioned TGV already, and I mentioned Roman Scharf already. So, I mean, and those are just, like I said, I didn't even write down too many, and that's a whole bunch right there. And there are so many others, that I haven't even thought about. And if you said XYZ person, I'd go, you're right. I forgot them. But that's the beautiful thing about this industry is that, and the nice thing is that these are all relatively short shows. I mean, my live stream is relatively long, but a lot of my pre-recorded videos and a lot of the other content out there is relatively short. But even the long content, since you can watch it whenever you want, it's not like we're competing for the same time slot, you know, and having people have to decide, well, do I watch I Love Lucy or do I watch The Honeymooners, Let's see. John D. Hey, John. Great energy from the Mad Watch Collector, indeed. Yes, I agree completely. Uh, Evil Mad. TGV went into a rabbit hole and is a bit negative lately. Well, people go through, you know, moods and phases. I mean, but I think TGV's got a good heart, and he'll. I think he'll bounce back. I think, but then again, I don't think he's that far down the rabbit hole. But then I haven't watched him lately. I should go and check out his latest episodes. John D. World Tempest is a new channel, but does excellent watch videos. I should check them out, definitely. Mad Watch Collector always puts a smile on my face, says Rick B, and does great reviews. Exactly. He doesn't take it too seriously. He has fun with it, and he lets us have fun with it. And he's just a really good watch blogger. Trap Vision. Hey, how's it going, my friend? And again, greetings and long life to everybody out there. Uh, John D. Nah, evil mad, evil mad. Miranda, the Simon channel might be interesting for you. He's a watchmaker. I watch a couple of those channels where watchmakers take apart and put together pieces and rescue watches. I think that's fascinating as well. And frankly, if I had the physical space to set up a workstation, a permanent workstation, I would do more modding and stuff like that myself. But to set up work, put it all away, especially if it's a project that might take a couple of days, you need to have a space where you can just leave it alone and come back to it later. But I envy people who are good at watch maintenance at the minimum and watchmaking at the higher ends, because I mean, that's part of the reason that I like and respect and love watch collecting, because of the craftsmanship, personship, the craftsmanship that goes into the pieces, the fit and finish, the precision. The first device that could measure a micron was made by Lecote. The micromillimeter or millimeter or something like that. But I mean, the name was basically the unit of measure almost. But because watchmakers need precision, and watches and clocks were the first devices that needed that level of precision in products, as it were. I mean, even guns can get away with millimeter precision, but micrometer precision is the realm of watches, you know? So let's see. Actually, let me go back to the phone because I still don't trust that scroll. Um, John D, do I listen to any specific long format watch streams, perhaps while I'm working or just as part of my leisure time? Sometimes I will listen to Bill Sanders at Watch Art Sci. I like him a lot. I don't he's a little purist on silicon hairsprings, but he has a logical argument, so I can respect his position on that. And he has nice live streams, and sometimes they can run to an hour or so. Um, Sometimes I do watch, Roman Sheriff. So quite a few of the bloggers have relatively, occasionally they'll do their live stream and chat for quite a while. Theo and Harris does stuff like that on occasion as well. And Watchbox, um, although they do a lot of heavy marketing on their side on their channel, but at least he's passionate. Tim's quite passionate about it, you know. And to me, that's one of the important things. If you really care, Evil Mad, if I want to watch something German, Stroms Ursachen. Okay. Things to do with watches. Brave Beaters, says Dr. Bob's Nightmare. Oh, that's another good channel. Warren Brenner. Warren is late. Thank you for the show. Oh, the pleasure is mine, Warren. Uh, John D. Ah, yes, Bill Sanders and his preference for all things not silicon. Well, but he, like I said, he comes by it honestly. He was originally a very blanket, no silicon, and then he's like, well, okay, maybe the pallet fork and the escapement wheel, but not the hairspring because to him, you should be able to fix a hairspring, but you gotta be a really magic I shouldn't say magic, you gotta be a really good watchmaker to fix a hairspring to begin with, and, because the silicon hairsprings are made with industrial processes, I think there'll be plenty of spare parts for the foreseeable future, and 20 years from now, you'll be able to use your in-house 3D printer to make one, hairspring, or at least go down the street to the fancy 3D printer shop and, print it out. But then again, your watchmaker in the future will probably have their own precision 3D printer to make everything from gears to well, probably wouldn't make a good mainspring, but you could do it with a hairspring. Definitely all of the gears and the plates and all of that other, and even the case, you could 3D print that in the case of vintage watches that you're trying to fix and want to replace the parts that aren't available anymore. I could easily see 3D printing once it gets that precise and that inexpensive at that level of precision. I could see that happening easily. So let's see. We're about half hour in. Do we have any other comments or questions? Um, Don't have anything. Oh, wait a second. John D. The main counter argument pro silicon is that repairable components typically aren't refurbished and then returned to your watch, and instead you get a new replacement during servicing. Well, that's the thing is, and even a metal hairspring. If you got I had to replace the balance wheel on an old pocket watch, my old erotic pocket watch recently, and I mean, at that point, you might as well replace everything, the hairspring and all. And if you can get your hands on that repair part, you might as well replace. Um, you could, like I said, as Bill argues, you could theoretically refurbish a hairspring. Uh, but like I said, I think your average watchmaker isn't going to tackle that kind of a job. And odds are they'd probably just refuse to do the work. Like I had a Speed Sonic that I wound up having to send to the Accutron doctor in Tokyo. I had a Speed Sonic and I sent it to Omega in Switzerland, and they sent it back to my AD saying, "Hey, nope, no can do. We don't have the parts for it anymore." But there are people who have the parts. A lot of specialists like the Accutron doctor in Tokyo, and I think on every continent there are a couple of Accutron specialists because it's such a beloved watch. Um, and that watch, they stopped making parts for it arguably in the 70s. And you can still find Accutron parts. I don't know how big the remaining pool of parts is, but also considering the number of watches that require those parts is also dwindling in number. They'll probably keep pace with one another. But yeah, I mean, I my pocket watch that I had recently repaired was a Tissot pocket watch movement from the 20s. The watchmaker was able to get the part in a few weeks, like 6, 8 weeks I got my watch back, you know? So, I can like I said, I can respect the argument about, silicon hairsprings, but I don't think that you're gonna have a lack of hairsprings, replacement hairsprings. There'll be plenty lying around because of the way they make them. And I mean, now with the land dweller, Rolex has pretty much put their seal of approval on silicone hairsprings as well. They're using their own proprietary silicone hairspring technology in the Land Dweller, along with a newer escapement design as well, if I'm not mistaken. You know, silicon's gonna be hard to push back against because there will always be metal hairsprings out there. There will always be companies like Dornbluth and the like, some purists and companies that really care about what they're doing to the point of artisan, work, that they'll always go with metal because they're never going to go with silicon because their core um, customer base wouldn't tolerate it. I don't think Bernard Lederer is going to put silicon hairsprings in his observatory qualified pieces with two remontoirs in them anytime soon. But I could see silicon hairsprings dominating everything from the $10,000 and below category. You know, of course, then at the very, very low end, it'll go back to metal hairsprings because it's a mature technology and easier access than having to go to a silicon fab. But yeah, the silicon hairsprings are here to stay. Aqua Watchman, says Miranda, if it wasn't mentioned before. No, Aqua Watchman was not mentioned before, and I never heard of Aqua Watchman. I'm gonna have to look him up. John D, it's simply an easy way to repair watches during service to replace components and get the watch back to the owner faster, which is better service. Yeah, exactly. And I don't think the fear that there won't be any replacement silicon hairsprings, I don't think that's going to be a real concern, in my humble opinion, or not so humble opinion. Let's see. Evil Mad 66. Spring of my 7750 broke. They replaced the whole movement for 350 Swiss francs. Replacing the spring would have been more expensive. Well, also because the 7750 is such a prolific movement. There are the edits, and then there are the variations, and then there are, the 7750 is a workhorse. It really is a great movement. I should almost have an episode just talking about the 7750, although that would last maybe 15, 20 minutes. Maybe I should talk about famous movements. I don't know. But the 7750 is a classic movement. The Aqua Watchman channel is about omegas. Well, that makes sense. Aquaterra. John D, completely agree. When the largest watchmaker has migrated into DRIE production methods, it's sure not to have a dearth in replacement components for all the movements across all watchmakers. Well, you got to just have to make sure that their Omega hairsprings and not Rolex hairsprings probably won't have the same mounting points. But like I said, I think on both sides, because like I said, it's an industrial process. They're doing it on a wafer. I've got pictures in the archive of wafers with silicon hairsprings in them. And so you're making, a couple hundred at a pop every time you do a wafer. So yeah, there's going to be plenty of spare parts out there for those. Miranda asks if Evil Mad's from Switzerland, and Evil Mad says he's BS and BE. Okay. And Dr. Bob's Nightmare says, watch Spirits Tokyo. Eric Mack, hello, all a little late to the discussion. Well, Eric, just tell us who your favorite watch bloggers are, and we'll talk about them. Even if we have already talked about them, we'll talk about them some more. Miranda, cool. For me, it's TG to Zurich. Mento watches. Mento watches are good watches. Menta, I think, or I'm thinking of Monta. I forget. I'd have to look it up again. But there are a lot of good watch companies out there, but then that's one of the things about having these channels and having all of these different voices, because like I said, I don't consider them competitors. Watch as many of them as you can. They all have different perspectives on this wonderful hobby that we have. And the ones that really care are going to rise to the top, and you'll know that they're noticed anyway by who they are and what they do. Like the Mad Watch Collector, if he was just some guy running around screaming at the camera, nobody would really follow him. But he is funny and charming and interesting, and actually talks about horology in a way that's fun and entertaining. Or when you talk about, there are some people who maybe don't necessarily like the way Archie is, so he's a little burns a little brightly for some people. He's a loud and a boisterous man. Um, but you can tell the passion in what he's doing in his channel, you know? I look at all of the different watch channels as a chorus of voices making, the community, providing the community with the music, we are richer for all of these different channels. We really are. Every single one of, even the channels that I don't like, they're still contributing their voices to the overall tone of our community. And each one of those voices has a right to express themselves. And if they express themselves well enough, they'll develop a following and people will want to listen to them and discuss things with them and expose things about the industry to them and their feelings about watches. Because, like I said, I recognize there are channels that all they want to talk about is how much nicer Rolex is than every other company on the planet, or something like that. Or there's a lot of upmanship going on out there in the marketplace, and people use, a lot of episodes about ranking and talking about the market. And I can understand why people do that, but to me, it's about the watches and why we like the watches. And let's talk about complications and let's talk about history and legacy. Because, for example, if you think about the Silver Snoopy, there's real history behind the Silver Snoopy and why it was created and what it represents and the history behind the Apollo 13 disaster and how the Speedmaster helped save the lives of the astronauts on board. That's real history. Um, Menta specializes in vintage. Very cool. Adam Golden at Menta Watches is a really smart vintage guy. John's agreeing with Matthias. And Miranda, I stopped watching most watch channels except all. Aren't you nice to say? It's a good Sunday relaxing evening relaxation to me. Matthias, Ortazar, Blair Watch Project. I'm gonna have to look them up. Oh, I'm gonna have to look them up. Dr. Bob's Nightmare, Tim Wright and friends. Yes, I hung out with Tim Wright at Geneva Watch Days. He is persistent. He sets up a live stream at an event and he'll run it for hours, literally hours. And I've hung with him and been on his live stream at Geneva Watch Days. Tim's a nice guy. I like him. He's another one who has passion. You can tell he cares about what he does. He's not just trying to get eyeballs. He really is passionate about the watches and wants to talk to people about the watches and other things too. But he's a fun guy. He really is a fun guy. Um, Everyone's talking about Dr. Bob's Nightmare, what he was his joke. Bravo Delta, how's it going? How's it going? And like I said, we were just talking about various watch bloggers, and now, like I said, I really want to emphasize that you should watch as many of them as possible. There's I don't think they even consider themselves competition between one another. We're all just people talking about our passions and our love about watches, and together we create a tapestry of ideas and entertainment, and hopefully a little education about watches and watch collecting and horology. And the more we participate, listen to different ones, talk to your friends about different watch bloggers and different channels and what you like about them and maybe even dislike about them, but something to give you a conversation about watches and correspond with them. I've had people send me notes and correspond with me about pieces, and I really enjoy it when people reach out to me and ask me questions about watches and watch collecting. And I don't doubt that all the other watch channels and bloggers and YouTubers out there, I don't doubt that they love having people ask them questions and talk about watch collecting and ask them questions about the hobby because it reinforces the connection that we have. You know, the because as I've said many times about this channel, I look at this channel as more as a gateway to a community than a one way me talking at the camera and yeah, saying what I just feel like saying about watches. I really enjoy the give and take and the comments that I get and, the interplay even we have, various members of the audience talking to one another through chat. It shows that we have a healthy community, and it's not just the ones that participate here. I love you all, and I'm glad you do, but think about the tens of hundreds of thousands of, avid watch collectors around the planet who exchange ideas and enjoy one another's thoughts. And the more we let each other know about the channels we like, the more channels we are exposed to as well. Because there have been several channels that were brought up in this conversation that I had never heard of myself, and I'm going to definitely look up. And I think you all should as well, because the more channels we take in, the more different viewpoints we have, and it gives us different insights. Maybe you are looking at a Grail watch and you see on one of the channels that, oh, it's not thermally reliable. If it's in situations where the temperature swings a lot, maybe it won't run as well or something like that. You learn something from someone who has a more technical take, or maybe you learn something about the history of the company that turns you off, or maybe you learn something about the materials they use or how they use the materials or something completely random. Maybe you see a channel and they show you a watch that you like more. So it's not that they're putting down the one you're looking at. Maybe they show you a watch that you never heard about. Because that's one of the beautiful things about the watch channels to me is I watch a lot of the channels to see the watches that I wouldn't know existed if they didn't report on them. You know, everybody reports on the mainstream pieces, but who talks about, the smaller releases, the micro brand releases? Pretty much only the watch bloggers, the watch YouTubers. They're out there looking at pieces and explaining why they're worth the trouble to look at and why you should think about them because they took the time to look at it and think about them. Like you said, look at someone like the Mad Watch Collector or Jody over at I think it's Jody at Just One More Watch. They're looking at watches that we wouldn't necessarily even come across casually, and maybe we would be interested in them. And having someone expose you to that is a good thing. So, yeah, the more if you, I would say, scale it to how interested you are in watches. The more interested you are in watches, the more channels you should be watching. And each channel has something to say, even the ones that just talk about the marketplace and how better Rolex is than everybody else. Maybe they have some good arguments about why they like Rolexes. Maybe not to the point where you say, "Hey, I'm not going to buy anything else," but to the point where you say, "Oh, maybe I should change my opinion of them." So let's see. John D. Collective Horology does a very professional and intellectual watch discussion in the long format podcast style. Really smart discussions. See, another channel I never heard of. That's what I'm saying. I'm really glad that I brought this topic up so we can all share one another's discoveries in the watch media space. Steve Papa is also entertaining. See, another one I've got to look up now. Eric Mack. How's it going, Eric? And again, greetings and long life to everyone who I haven't said hello to yet. Uh, Eric, I take a little from everyone. I find myself watching Bobby Legs, Tim Masso, Trap Vision, Santana, JOMW, Wristful Ignorance. Yeah, I've seen Wristful Ignorance too. And this channel. Oh, I'm always flattered if you like my channel. And now that I think I mentioned now that I'm getting on top of my new job because I'm working two jobs now, I'll start doing some more pre-recorded content because I still have to do the review of this piece. But then again, the longer I wear it, the more insight I have on it for you all. Blair Watch Project is real. I just subbed. Vasilios, good evening from Greece. Good evening from Wiesbaden. Miranda, You guys watch videos about famous watch collectors like John Mayer, Kevin Hart. I just saw one about one of the Top Gear guys, Dr. Slow or whatever, I forget his name, Mays, I think his name is, but they talking about his collection, and he has some interesting stuff. He's got one of the Omega date, not date, LCD display and analog display watches. I forget the name of the piece, but he's got a really interesting collection. Jim May, I believe, is his name. So I do like to watch. Uh, I I like to watch collection videos about people I find interesting that own watches, not so much people who are interesting because they own watches. You know what I mean? Uh, Dr. Bob's Nightmare. Random Bob is cool. Evil Mad mentioned Lanos and Greek. A Greek pops up. Dr. Bob's Nightmare. I must admit, I'm not a big fan of talking timepieces with Tony. He started his channel after mine. He didn't have to use the term talking timepieces. Um, could have done his due diligence on conflicting names, but I don't mind as much because number one, this is a hobby channel, and number two, luckily, YouTube is content driven, not channel driven. So, you know, fine. And well, he's one of the channels that does a lot of talking about Rolex and the market and how one watch is better than another. He can have that. He can have that audience. And I'm not saying you shouldn't watch it. Maybe you get something informative out of it, but yeah, it's not my style. John, not a fan of stores that cover their own products. Doesn't feel like it's genuine review. Saying Teddy Baldassar, Nico Leonard, Federico at Del Rey. Well, Watch Gecko as well. Bark and Jack. Adrian. He Adrian. His last name is Jack Barker. That's what it is. Adrian Barker. Yeah, a lot of bloggers have a bit of retail activity, and that's the grain of salt. A warning to take a grain of salt with anything they say. But I do believe Teddy. I think he truly is passionate and cares about watches. Um, I don't think he's trying to, just sell watches because he started as a watch blogger before he started selling watches. And I don't think being a retailer is turning him away from the hobby. I think it's complementing his hobby. He is he. You could tell the way he talks about watches that he still cares about watches. At least that's how I feel. Federico leans a little bit more on the selling because Teddy, since he's a new watch AD, he doesn't necessarily have to say what he's got in his inventory because it's whatever's available currently. But Federico, he talks about watches in his inventory because he's selling used watches. But as I was saying, in the case of Federico, he does care and he does know what he's talking about when it comes to watches. And his show isn't just him talking about his pieces. He usually opens with a couple of pieces that he has to sell, and then he goes into whatever the questions or things that he wants to talk about on the channel. So I can see where you're coming from with being a little careful listening to people who have a moneyed interest in our hobby. Um, but I'd say for the most part, even though people with business connections, like I said, Watchbox gets a little heavy-handed sometimes. Um, but I don't. I think it might be more the style of the channel as opposed to that they really want to just be more of a merchandiser as it were. But yeah, having a vested interest, having a moneyed interest in your channel can potentially be a conflict of interest. But I don't, like I said, I don't think it really is in the case of most of the bloggers that are doing it directly, as it were, as opposed to, say, for example, Watchfinder, right? Um, they are a business and they talk about pieces that they're trying to sell and pieces that they have in their inventory. But at least they're informative. At least they're informative. Let's see. Random Rob is an awesome guy with knowledge, says Vasilios. John 1916 Company. Uh, Watch Chris. What about Hobby of Hours? That's pretty cool. That's another good channel. Killing Time with Norman. I've seen that. That's a good channel too. He has a very unique collection, says Dr. Bob's Nightmare. See, that's the thing about it, sharing all of our observations out there. Like I've got a bunch of channels now I've got to follow up on, and I bet you all found some that you're interested might be interested in as well. John D. Yep, sales pitches. Though Tim Masso and Jack Forster are their only redeeming spokespeople. Yeah, I like Tim. He's a nice guy. Evil Mad. Bark and Jack at least don't sell watches. Teddy, you see his bias with brands he sells. Zenith, Nomos, and so on. I don't know. Zenith and Nomos are worth talking about. John D. agrees with Evil Mad. Evil Mad says, I think Tim Masso is one of the most educated watch personalities online, but you always have that bitter taste. Ouch. Evil Mad. Vasily, check out Steve Papa, American with Greek roots. Very cool. So I see we're getting to the top of the hour. And as I've always said, I always like to close the episode out while we're rolling, as opposed to, we petering out and floundering for how to continue. Let's see if there's any last questions before we close out, and then we'll let's see. Oh, here we go. King John the Sixth. Wow, impressed, my liege. Hello from Connecticut. What is my opinion on replica watches? Saw 1-to-1 of a sub that was gorgeous and a fraction of the cost. Well, Santa Claus, thanks, great show. King John, I've always been against replicas, fakes, because that's what they are. They're fakes. And wearing a fake watch is like buying Coke, because you think, well, it's just Coke, but it's not just Coke. And if you're caught with a small amount, you might not even get in a lot of trouble. But it's still an illegal product, and it's supporting illegal activity, because those fake watches don't go through the normal supply chain, do they? That means they're going through an illegal supply chain, which means the proceeds from the watches also subsidize illegal supply chains, which include drugs and weapons and all kinds of stuff like that. They busted recently, you can look it up online. They recently had a bust in Amsterdam that included fake watches and all kinds of, incredibly illegal stuff as well. And a fake watch is just a lie. I mean, you're first off, you're lying to yourself. Before you even lying to anybody else, you're putting the fake on your wrist. Buy an homage. An homage. There are a lot of really good sub homages that are very good watches and cost a fraction of what a sub costs. I would buy an homage. Get a Steinhardt. Get something where the company is actually proud of the watches they make, and they just happen to look like fancier watches. I would totally go the homage route. But fake watches are a lie. You're lying to yourself. You're lying to the people around you. It's like wearing a military uniform to get free drinks at a bar. That fake watch did not earn the name that's on it. The company that made that fake watch didn't make the watch for the woman that swam the English Channel, or they didn't make the first automatic wristwatch. They didn't make the first really waterproof wristwatch, or at least one of the first really waterproof wristwatches. All of the things that make the Rolex name important, none of it has to do with that fake, or Omega or Cartier. Those companies have a reputation because of what they've achieved, and a fake is just stealing that. Identity theft. So your mileage may vary, but that's something I would strongly recommend against. Get an homage. You'll be way happier, really, really way happier. Trust me. HRM Chronoglide is a great watch channel. It's run by a watchmaking school teacher from the Netherlands. Very cool. Very cool. Miranda's agreeing with me. John D. Yeah, that sort of copycat thing is terrible. Evil Man, fake or homage? Homage is better than fake. HRM, there are several people who have been assaulted and robbed for their fake Rolex as well, making yourself a target without getting to experience the real thing. Yeah, that would be ironic. Pagani Design or Invicta. Pagani makes some nice homages. Invicta makes arguably one of the best sub homages out there. Miranda, fake watch, fake person, better wear an affordable Hamilton or Tissot. Exactly. I have a PRX chrono myself. I mean, just because I have some more expensive pieces doesn't mean I don't enjoy some of the really nice mainstream pieces. The PRX chrono is a really great buy. Um, Evil Mad, I would never buy them because I don't want to watch that just looks but no tell. John D, the look for less is really a scam since you wouldn't own the real thing and know it. Why deceive yourself? Exactly. You're lying to yourself. What can you afford? Buy what you can afford, but genuine watches only. Exactly. King John, yeah, agreed. I'll stick to Bullet and continue to save my pennies. Thanks for your, I appreciate it. Evil Mad, it's like the kit cars that look like Lamborghinis, but are Honda underneath. Pretty much. Evil Mad, the classic Fiero Ferrari. I remember that, the Pontiac. I like the relaxed Grumpy Master too. Yeah, I've seen the relax. You can buy those are mod faces for Seikos, and it doesn't say Rolex; it says relax. But yeah, so now we're at the top of the hour. I really enjoyed this chat today, and I will see you all next Sunday, same bat time, same bat channel, and have a fantastic week. Uh, Most especially, have a fantastic evening. Thanks. Take care.